Welcome to the show.
Welcome. Virtual handshake.
Virtual handshakes, the new
very
thing.
good.
Yes, virtual handshakes and Wi-Fis. Let's jump straight into it. This is a very strange time for people.
Yes.
I will speak for myself when I say it is a very confusing time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I should be afraid, should not be afraid, should be a little bit more panicked, not panicked at all. Where do we stand right now from New York and then from what you know about what's happening in cities around the world?
You know Franklin Roosevelt, the famous quote, "We have nothing but fear itself." You know, there is an element of this that is fear that's been generated beyond the facts, beyond the reality. And so when you really look at coronavirus, it's serious. We have to make a lot of adjustments to address it. But I worry that it's becoming sort of the cause for making a bunch of decisions that actually alter all the rest of our life, including in some very bad ways. Let me give you an example. Some people are saying close our schools. Mm-hmm. Now, we have a lot of evidence that this disease, thank God, does not really have that much of an impact on healthy children.
Right.
Okay? Very sadly, the biggest impact is on older folks with serious pre-existing medical conditions.
And when we say older, what is that range? What is
Certainly over 50, but I think in reality it's much more. We see a lot of the fatalities 70s, 80s kind of thing. So it's not to, God forbid anyone is hurt by it, but when you think about folks saying close everything, close schools, when in fact the evidence says our kids are, thank God, pretty safe. Mm-hmm. And we want our kids to get an education. And a lot of parents say to me, our kids need the schools not just for education, it's where they get their meals. It's parents who don't have any other choice where they're going to have their kids if they don't have the schools.
Right.
So it's thinking about the whole picture. We do have to make serious adjustments, and government has to act and people have to act. But let's not make this the false idol. Let's have an honest conversation about what it is and what it isn't.
So then what is it in that regard? Because I think what's been really tough in America particularly is that from the top, it seems like the president is slightly more concerned with how coronavirus affects his image as opposed to setting expectations for the nation.
The nicest thing you ever said about Donald Trump.
Coronavirus.
That is fair and balanced.
Yeah,
fair and balanced.
But what I'm saying is, I have noticed that we as society we have lived through multiple pandemics.
Yes.
We've lived through multiple epidemics.
Yes.
The difference now being specifically in America, people don't know what the messaging is because from up top it seems discombobulated at best.
There is no messaging.
Right.
Look. We had a chance weeks and weeks ago for the president to say this is a very serious thing. It's going to be with us for a long time. You're going to have to make some adjustments in your life. We're all in this together, and we're going to get through this together. We got everything but that. And what the president really should have done was get the testing out there to the local level where we could actually get ahead of this. They still haven't done it. They still haven't done it.
So let me ask you this. Can people get tested? Should people get tested? If I feel sick, should I go get tested? How does this even work for people in New York, and how do you think it should work, scaling outward?
So one day I think we're going to have such abundant testing capacity that it's something that could be really broadly brought out into the population. But until that day, the focus on people with symptoms, folks who have traveled to the most affected areas, folks who have been in contact with someone who does have confirmed case of coronavirus, that's where you got to start. But, doctors can do a very initial test. They have it right now that's not about coronavirus. They can tell you if your problem is something else.
Right.
They do it all the time. It's called a biofire test, and it tells you you've got all sorts of common, issues, cold, flu, et cetera, kind of things. Once you know that you're sick and it's not one of those more traditional things, we want those folks to get a coronavirus test, obviously. So we have a sense of priority, and what we're finding is we have 53 people as of today who have tested positive. A lot of them are at home. They're healthy. They're seeing it through. They're having very limited symptoms. Some are in the hospital. Some are in tough shape. Others are coming out of it. Mm-hmm. So it's not just one thing. But I do think the idea is, why don't we as a nation mobilize all our resources, get the testing truly to be all over the country where it's needed, get people tested in a really extensive manner, then we'll know what's what, and we can get people help. Listen, 80% of the people who get it have very little negative experience. It's like cold or flu in reality. For the other 20%, most of them have a tough time, but they'll come out okay in the end, except that small percentage, of God forbid, and that is typically the oldest, and folks who are really ill who may not make it.
Is it uncomfortable to say for a person in a leadership position, hey, the people who are going to die from this thing were the people who might have just died from anything else? And I'm not even saying that as like a joke, but we've accepted that with certain other things in life, where we go like, hey man, because of your respiratory illnesses, because of your age, because of this, anything, you know, if you got a chest infection, it could have killed you. If you got this, it could have killed you. Is it hard for leaders to just say that, hey, yeah, you were already like on death's door, man. This thing's just going to take you out. Or do you have to like, does it make the messaging harder? Because it sometimes feels like as leaders, you guys have to be like, look, I mean, maybe there's some of you just. Whereas I know you can't say it, but it would be gangster if you guys could just come out and say like, hey, if you were going to die, you were going to die. And Corona is just like making that happen.
Trevor, I really don't think you should run for public office.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I honestly, what balance do you have to maintain as a leader, like in terms of being opaque versus telling people, like you're saying, don't panic. But then at the same time, you're saying people must change their lives. So what does that mean?
Right. So I'll give you an example to your previous point. So my predecessor as mayor one day said about kids who are in danger of child abuse. He said literally at one point, we can't save every child, because some of it is beyond the reach of government. We don't even know about it until it's too late. I heard that and I found that chilling. I think our goal is actually to try and save everyone, right? Our goal is never to give up on anyone. So that's why, even though I get your point about people in public
I hear what
life,
you're saying.
There's a second side of that. We have people who are older, who have those serious medical conditions, who are in the hospital right now, who have coronavirus, and they're fighting for their lives. And what we should say is, let's pray they get through. Let's give them all the help. And some of those folks will come through. So you don't give up on anyone. But the honest thing is to realize what it is and what it isn't, right? If it is something that for the vast majority of people doesn't have that bad an impact, then when we're making all the other decisions, schools, workplaces, right, subways, you gotta worry about, and I look at Italy. Now, the entire society shut down, the people's livelihood shot to hell. How much time was it going to take to ever get back to normal? And what's that going to mean for the people who didn't have money, couldn't afford the rent, their lives fell apart, their careers fell apart, all this stuff? So you got to balance the whole equation. And one thing, you know, my public health professionals believe, they think 6 months is probably a valid measure right now of what it's going to take us to get through this to some kind of normal again. That could change, right? But why don't we just level with people and say, we're going to go through something together. It will not be easy. You're going to have to make adjustments. You're actually going to have to look out for each other. You're going to have to change some of your habits. Like, government can't do all that for you. We have to do a lot.
What are some of those habit changes?
Like, you know, you sneeze like this, right? You do the elbow bump. And if you're sick, here's a crucial one. How many of you have gone to work when you were sick, right? Everybody. The American ethic, not you, God bless you. You don't come from here. So you come from a part of the world, people think if they're sick, they don't have to work. In America, what do? We power through, right?
Yes.
Don't do that. If you get sick, stay home. That's really different.
But that's if you can afford to stay home.
We have paid sick days in New York City, which is something I'm very proud of, passed in my administration. 5 days, paid sick days every year, so you can take care of yourself and your family.
Okay.
We should have that all over America.
Right.
So, in fact, in those 5 days, you're going to find out if your disease resolves, which is colds, flus kind of thing, or if it's something worse.
And then let me ask you this then. Are there any plans to cancel gatherings and events in the city? So for instance, a lot of shows are saying that, hey, from next week, we won't be having audiences. Some people are saying, is New York going to shut down sporting events? For instance, the Golden State Warriors said, hey, there's going to be no fans at their game. I'm assuming Knicks fans would hope the same thing will happen to them. Are you planning to cancel?
I got a mercy request from the Knicks. You know, please save us from ourselves. But look, the one thing I worry about is the cascading effect. It's one thing to come up with clear criteria, and we intend to do this very shortly, that says, here's the kind of adjustments we need. But what I worry about is they become no longer about health and facts, but they become sort of a rush to the exits. And again, you're seeing major nations in states of shutdown. That would be devastating for the United States. It would be devastating for New York City. So how do you strike a balance and say, okay, first of all, the folks who are sick, if you're sick, don't go to anything. If you're older and you have those pre-existing conditions, cancer, diabetes, et cetera, don't go out to major events or any place with a crowd because you're just so vulnerable, right? But for healthy people, how do we create some standards of the kind of places you can be and, create some balance? That's what we're trying to do. You still can spend time with people. I don't want a situation where folks feel they can't go out and do anything. That is not a winning equation. It's what's the kind of situation where you're not too crowded,
yes.
There's a little more space, a little more safety in that dynamic. I think we can come up with that standard, keep our economy going, keep people healthy, and we're going to ride it out. And if everyone participates, the other thing we're saying to people is you got to look out for each other. If you're a grandparent and you want to go visit your grandchildren, it's important for folks to say, I know you want to do that, but right now might not be the right time if the kids are not feeling well or something like that. How do you sort of create some balance? If you have a neighbor who is not doing so well in life, right? They're older, they're not so healthy. How do you help them out? Maybe you bring them meals, right? So they don't have to go out and be vulnerable. It's a little bit more of a communal solution than just a governmental solution. And actually what we find with New Yorkers, and I think this is true all over America, is in crisis people actually get very generous. They get very kind and compassionate. And they find something in themselves that we often don't see in our society. If everyone steps up, a little bit of change your own life, a little bit of look out for other people, we can actually get through this. We actually can.
Let me ask you one last question then. The president has said to people, I don't think we should panic. I don't know if this thing is going to be that bad. It could go down to zero, and people have criticized him for some of that. But what would you say is the key difference in your messaging versus his? Because some would say, oh, but that's what Trump is saying. He's saying everyone should calm down. Things are going to go back to normal. What is the key messaging difference that you think the president may be missing out on?
So you know your history, and they used to say when the nation would go to war, don't worry, it'll be a really quick war and the boys will be home by Christmas. Or famously, George W. Bush on the aircraft carrier with mission accomplished for Iraq. First of all, the President of the United States has committed, I think, a fundamental sin here in terms of being a leader by not saying to people, you know what, this will take a lot of work, sacrifice, this is going to be with us a long time. There's no instant gratification here. He abrogated his responsibility to tell people the truth. And, when he said, when the warm weather comes, it'll go away. I mean, what the hell was that? I mean, there's no science anywhere near that, right? I mean, that's even more than his other unscientific statements. So I think it is crucial to be honest with people. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be a simple thing to deal with. It's not catastrophic. It doesn't mean the end of civilization, because you want, they say consumer confidence about the economy. Well, there's almost societal confidence. People have to believe that we can get through it. They have to believe that things can still function, so they want to participate. You don't want parents scared to send their kids to school. You don't want people scared to go to work. You don't want our public servants scared to go and come help us, our first responders, our healthcare professionals. So you have to strike a balance. But I actually find people respond a lot better to real talk. So it's a big deal. It's going to be with us a long time. It's going to take sacrifice. It's going to take adjustment. But it is not Armageddon, despite the excellent montage you and I talked about with your...
Oh, yeah. Like I said, is this how we die? Versus this is how we die.
Right.
Yes.
Right. It's not actually that.
Right.
It actually isn't. And I think an honest conversation is actually calming. I think telling people, we did a thing here in New York every day. We say, here are the numbers. We try and give them a sense of what's happening to people. We try and be really honest about what we know and what we don't know. I think that's another thing. People want to hear the truth. And sometimes I know what I don't know is the most honest statement you can make.
Right.
And so nobody on earth fully understands this disease. It's brand new. But we know enough to know that we can fight it and that we can deal with it. And we also know it is not, look, we had Ebola in New York City. Let me tell you.
I brought it, I know.
Okay. Trevor, I really have an issue with that, and I've been wanting to talk. I was like, I know you want publicity, but this is not the right way to go about it, bringing Ebola to New York City. So, but, that's like you say hello to someone and everyone dies, right? I mean, that's a staggering disease. We had it here. New Yorkers were amazing. It was the patient who had it was at Bellevue Hospital, and those doctors and nurses and technicians, everyone was like, they showed up for work. They were ready to go. They were ready to fight this thing back. And all New Yorkers saw that and took confidence and went on about their lives.
Right.
That was Ebola. So you know what? There's something about being a leader where you don't discourage people from having faith and strength and create fear, nor do you tell them, oh, just look away from the problem, it's all going to be fine, it's going to be done by April. You got to tell people truth and then invite them to be part of the solution. And that's what we're trying to do here.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Amen.
Really appreciate it. Mayor Bill de Blasio, everybody.